Hello, guys. Welcome to the new episode of the Film Angle. My name is Kris.
And I'm Alex.
Alex, what have you sort of been catching up with recently? Have you been watching a lot of movies? I mean, that's kind of why we're here, right?
Yes, yeah. I've been watching a few. I've jumped back on to the BFI wagon, and I have
Yes.
watched the next installment in the kind of blind spot series, which was Celine and Julie go boating. I've also been out to see Renfield, the Nicolas Cage and Nicholas Hoult, the two Nicholases,
Yes.
kind of Dracula comedy horror, not horror, but just
Mm,
weird film. And then what else? I think that was kind of it really. So not loads. I said loads at the start, not like two.
well, similar to you, I've caught up with the next film in the BFI list. And yeah, Renfield was something that you and I chatted about a couple of weeks ago we want to talk about. So I made sure to squeeze that in too. It's a movie that kind of a lot of people were really excited about because I think the Nicolas Cage train is just, it is going hard at the minute, coming off the back
Mm.
of
Oh, the unbearable weight of massive talent.
yes, yes, which was I really really enjoyed. Actually more for Pedro Pascal, but although I think both of them two are really an interesting and fun
Yeah,
dynamic
it was
together.
fun. It was a lot of fun. And Pedro Pascal is kind of he's in the
Sword,
spotlight at the moment, and the
yes,
the, the big old meme of them riding in the car together has seemed to have kind of popped up in recent weeks as well, and
yeah,
taken the TikTok, Instagram world by storm. So, yeah, I mean, yeah, Nicolas Cage as Dracula. What more
yeah.
could you want? That sounds great on paper. And for the most part, like his performance in the film is good fun. It was everything else surrounding
Yeah.
him that I didn't get on board with so much. Did you have a similar kind of feeling?
So I think that's worth mentioning. I think the what you're there for is the Nicolas Cage going full Dracula, and I wouldn't say that he is a cameo character, but he is a supporting character in this, and
Oh yeah,
he is like a supporting character in the way Michael Myers was in the last Halloween movie, which was like you weren't expecting it. He's kind of similar in terms of he's hiding away in this cave, and he has these interactions with his servant Renfield, who's played by Nicholas Holt, who is his job has been throughout the centuries is to bring him victims to his lair for him to feed upon, and yeah, and he is his familiar. I think we're all sort of familiar with that concept, no pun intended, with the what we do in the Shadows franchise being a really
yeah,
big thing. And is that kind of the problem here? Is that it's catching on to something a bit too late?
yeah. That was my kind of feeling with the trailer as well. I was just like, they're just doing what we do in the shadows. Like what we do in the shadows has made the humor out of the familiar to a vampire, like the main kind of selling point of the show. Maybe was yeah, it was definitely a part of the film, but the show definitely um, more so develops this kind of
Yes.
all the comedy draws from that kind of place. Well, not all of it, but most of it. So yeah, I kind of was like, oh, they're just doing what we do in the Shadows TV show. But I guess Nicholas Holt's good, and Nicolas Cage as Dracula is a fun concept. So
See, Nicolas
you
Cage,
go in
like I
intrigued at least.
exactly. I mean, I enjoy Nicolas Cage in this and his isolated moments, but the problem is he, like all of the actors in this movie. I mean, I really appreciate Aquafina as well. I find her an absolutely a joy to watch on screen. She's so physical and she's got a great voice, and she really throws her everything into films. But everybody's in the wrong movie, and they're all
Yeah,
trying. They're all dearly trying their best to salvage what they can from it.
yeah. I won't lie. I wasn't as big a fan of Awkwafina in this one. I enjoy her in other films. Like, there's no doubt she's a good actress. But again, you're right. She's in this weird kind of police film where her family's been killed by corrupt cops or something. Like there's some kind of mafia
Yeah,
thing, and none of this kind of makes sense. Yeah, it just feels like I mean, I don't know the production history of this film, but if I was to hazard a guess, I would say that somebody was like, "Whoa, Nicolas Cage as Dracula, how much fun would that be?" They
Hmm.
signed him on board, and then they were like, "All right, how do we write a script around this?"
You don't need you
Somebody had
don't.
just come off of binge watching What We Do in the Shadows, and was just like, here you go, here's something," and they just went straight into production.
I mean, it feels like that should write itself, though, really, doesn't it? I mean, it's just a shame that it's just completely wasted. And you're right. Whenever they're focusing in on this Aquafina, um, uh, co-op subplot with the father and the sister. I mean, the sister. I barely even remembered. Think I just remembered she was in the movie. I don't really remember her as an entity in it. I
No.
think there's a real strain to try to actually drive genuine emotion in this thing. I think there's actually an attempt to have a beating heart at the center of this movie. But it's just like you're doing the wrong thing. People aren't here to see that, and I know our expectations are meant to be subverted, but you got to kind of pick a lane here, and there's 10 different things that are going on, and
Yeah.
and because of that, none of them are entirely successful, and you come out of it pretty exhausted and bored.
Yeah, I completely zoned out during the final kind of fight, and to be fair, like the action in this film is probably one of its stronger suits. There's some like really fun, campy, gory action scenes, which are quite well done. But yeah, by the time we got to the end, I didn't know what was going on, and I'd completely zoned out. And then the next thing I know, yeah, Dracula was being chopped up into tiny pieces, and I just yeah,
Yeah, I think the
spoilers. Sorry, spoilers.
yeah, I mean, it's just a strange time. I think people have responded to it positively. I don't feel like we are, entirely alone. I think the opinions kind of dance about all over the place. But it depends on your tolerance for this thing. I just sort of saw this as a really bog standard, three act structure movie that is really mundane and has sprinkles of humor in it. But it's just it's 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 perfunctory for what it could have been. I think there's so much more potential here because that's why people turned up to see it. That's why it lasted in the cinemas for so long and had a pretty decent run over here. People continue to go see it because they're drawn to the that simple concept of Nicolas Cage being a vampire. And if he was not in this movie, would people have even turned up to see it at all? I don't know. I question that. So
Yeah, you're right. I feel like Nicholas Holt isn't a big enough draw, as good an actor as he
as good at
is.
yes, yeah.
Like yeah, there's no draw here, and yeah, I don't know. I mean, you have Ben Schwartz. He's big with the kids right now, but this is very much a
Yeah, yeah, and he is quite. He's also trying his best. Maybe the material written for him isn't exactly as funny as he is. He puts he does the snivelly heir to the crime family thing very very well, and he's very weaselly and very good at honing in on that pathetic nature. But yeah, even he kind of struggled with the material. I think.
yeah, yeah, definitely. And I would like to mention that my favorite part of the film was the start where we actually have the original Dracula film where Nicholas Hoult and Nicolas Cage are kind of superimposed into key scenes from that. That was the only bit I kind of enjoyed, but I think maybe because we were starting to watch the
The Universal
the
monster
Universal
movies,
monster
yeah.
movies last year. That was kind of one of the starting points of the podcast, wasn't it? So like Dracula's still pretty fresh in my mind as one that I
Hmm.
particularly enjoyed. So
Yeah, and that superimposing that they do is really well done. It doesn't look, fake at all. It almost looks like I like to see the version where they just swap out Bela Lugosi with um with Nicolas Cage. That'd be quite interesting. Maybe it'll be more interesting than this movie was.
oh yeah, because the original Dracula is a more interesting film, even though that is a very kind of simple,
Yeah.
basic old movie.
I think it's surprising when you go back. Not to veer off the track too much, but whenever you go back to those old movies, how like oddly they turn into just romantic movies about people just you're trying to seduce a young woman or something like that. It's very of its time, but yeah, maybe if we got more Nicolas Cage trying to play the romantic vampire, a bit of a spin off of the sort of Bram Stoker's a Gary Oldman Dracula. That would have been kind of fun to see how he would have
Yeah,
done
he
that.
definitely played more of a like creepy man vampire.
Yeah, with like no motivation. All he wants to do is just like like most vampire movies. It tends to seem like a burden to be a vampire, at least more in the contemporary films, like What We Do in the Shadows and yeah, what's the Jim Jarmusch one?
Only lovers left alive.
Only Lovers Left Alive definitely explore that concept. But here he is, as Renfield's character, the character Renfield says, he is a narcissist and he just wants to eat people. But that's funny and campy. But yeah, it wears on the patience, and patience was definitely tested.
Yeah, I agree. I agree.
Sorry, guys, can't recommend this one. I'm afraid.
No, I would stay clear of Renfield. I
If
would
you're a
stay
really
clear.
big Nicolas Cage fan, I mean, watch those isolated moments. Maybe probably like a 10-minute compilation video on
Mm,
YouTube. But apart from that, you're not missing anything.
no, I would agree. I would agree.
I did catch up, however. You mentioned the movies you caught up with the last week. I noticed you didn't catch up with the one I did, Peter Pan and Wendy, which was a new film kind of dropped on Disney Plus. Another one of the Disney remakes. That
Yeah.
Yeah, I know. I understand. There's a lot of I was interested because it's directed by David Lowery, who I've never been shy enough to say I'm a really big fan of. I think A Ghost Story, his version of Pete's Dragon, The Old Man and the Gun, and The Green Knight are really really interesting films, and I'm a big fan of all of those to varying degree. So I was really interested to see what he would do with this sort of material and to see how far Disney would let him go, and it turns out they let him go half the way. Um,
Gotcha. What? So just so I can have some kind of context. So I've seen The Green Knight, and I've seen Ghost Story. Both films I enjoy. Um, but I've not seen Pete's Dragon. But I heard that it's a pretty, as Disney remake live action films go, that's one of the better ones, if not the best one. Is that how you would see it? Like, what's his kind of spin on it?
well, it's a more grounded version of that story. I think it benefits from the fact that the original Pete's Dragon is one of those ones that actually does need a revamp because it's so dated, and it's a lot of people have a lot of love for that movie, but there is a sense of a certain time when you watch a movie like that, and
Mm,
it would not translate really well. I don't think with modern audiences at all. I wouldn't put our any children in front of it nowadays and expect them to come out of it absolutely cheering for Pete's Dragon. So to kind of take that and turn it into something else, a more grounded family drama that actually has some emotional stakes, some really beautiful photography, really great performances from like Bryce Dallas Howard. Yeah, I just think it's a really grounded, really well done film, and actually is brave enough to do something. But I think that's because the IP wasn't so well revered to begin with.
yeah, like I
So
don't even think I've seen the animated Pete's Dragon.
yeah, me neither. Actually, I've seen bits of it. Obviously, the poster is very famous, and parts of it whenever you go to the Disney parks. But yeah, I've never. I know what that's going to be, and haven't sought after it. It's a kind of a low production 60. I don't know if it's done in the 60s or 70s, but it was sort of in that period, that limbo period of Disney where they weren't really putting a lot of money into their things, and they were kind of on the back burn. So yeah, you can sort of play with an IP that isn't as high risk of that as that, and you can put a filmmaker like David Lowery and let him do whatever he wants. Peter Pan, like I said, Peter Pan and Wendy, um, they do to some degree let him do what he wants, but like all of these recent Disney remakes, there just isn't the investment being put in by Disney, and I think they know that people aren't as excited because the quality is being low. So they're being really choosy about what they're putting their money into and what is going to become a theatrical release. Little Mermaid, they're really pushing a lot of money into. You can sort of see that on the screen. I don't know how that is going to turn out though.
I
Um,
couldn't see anything on the screen in the trailer.
it was just a murky, yeah, and it's directed by Rob Marshall, who's kind of, he's had his hits early in the day with Chicago, was an Oscar winning film, but he sort of had a lot of misfires in that genre. He's a big musical stage director. So he's a Disney go-to for them. He did like Mary Poppins Returns, but I actually really appreciated Peter Pan and Wendy. I'm a big fan of the original Peter Pan. It was like one of my like go switch it on to go to bed movies. I just find it so comforting because it is just like a bedtime story. It's like the ultimate bedtime story, and it's a concept that we can all relate to. We all yearn for nostalgia. We all yearn to not not grow up as fast as we have to move on and have those responsibilities thrusted upon us. All of a sudden, and yearn for a time where we can go back and we just had to be kids and have fun and play make believe. But Laurie does something interesting with the story here that isn't kind of done in the original versions. There are like always gaps, knowledge gaps whenever you watch the original. Like, why is Captain Hook chasing after Peter Pan? What is Neverland? How did Peter Pan get there? It's those questions aren't ever really asked. It's just sort of like these are characters that were plopped into the world of. We get a really, really interesting backstory that closely links Captain Hook with Peter Pan this time around. And I don't know if I should spoil it. I think I should leave that to the audience because that's one of the interesting things about the movie. Um, but you can definitely feel that there's a lack of budget here. There is a minimalist design to the world in Neverland. It's got this more naturalistic look to it. There's no big CGI sculptures or anything. It's all shot on this sort of island that is kind of uninhabited. A lot of grassland, a lot of forests. Has sort of a Native American feel to it, which is quite interesting. But the real fun in it is seeing how David Lowery manages to play with the camera work, which is one of his signature things. I think you can even appreciate that if you didn't like The Green Knight. You can appreciate what he was doing in terms of the cinematography. He's a very visually creative filmmaker, and a
Hmm.
lot of that stuff's in here too. Um, yeah, I think it deserves a champion because I think a lot of people have been kind of sticking their nose up at it even before seeing the film, and it's kind of like it's a culture at the minute that is kind of got a bad taste in the tongue. Really, there's the whole sort of debate with the Lost Boys that some of them in this version are girls, and a lot of people saw the trailer and took a lot of offense at that. Really, when you watch the movie,
God damn it,
I know.
Jesus!
I know. It's such a minor detail. It's like the movie doesn't treat it as anything. Um, this movie has no objective but to be the ultimate bedtime story, and the fact that Laurie is trying to really channel something interesting here, and there's great performances in this too. I think Jude Law does a really interesting turn as Captain Hook, where he's a bit more, he quiets it down a little bit more and a little bit more intense. And there's definitely a hurt aspect to that character, a
He
bit jaded.
definitely didn't seem as like theatrical as some of the hooks we see.
Like,
And I remember seeing the trailer and being like, "Oh, this is a very different interpretation
mm,
of Captain Hook." I was expecting something a lot more theatrical than campy, as we've come to expect from these kind of things.
yeah, I mean, you got Jason Isaacs does. I mean, he does a really good job of that in the 2003 Peter Pan, and obviously Dustin Hoffman's very, very over the top and
Oh,
Hook. Yeah,
perfect. The only
perfect.
Peter Pan that matters is Hook.
Well, I think it's worth you catching up with. What if I told you that maybe possibly the protagonist of the story is Captain Hook in a way?
Oh, okay. That's quite
It's
interesting.
it's
That's fair.
interesting to think of in that way. So
I
yeah,
I just don't like Peter Pan that much. Like the animated one, like I remember it as a kid, but I don't remember like loving it. Like I must have
mhm,
enjoyed it. Hook holds a place in my heart, so there is a Peter Pan story out there that is a big part of my childhood, and that was Hook, mainly because it was the first DVD I ever had. Back
okay.
when DVDs were a thing. That was the first one. So I love Hook. But yeah, I have no feelings for the original. I just like the rest of my Peter Pan memories are just kind of watching pantomimes over and over again.
Mhm.
Like every
School
pantomime seems to be a
plays
Peter
and
Pan. Yeah, like oh
yeah,
god, give it a rest. So and it feels like we get a new Peter Pan film every year, or every other year at least,
we
with
do.
some kind of twist. I don't know. Maybe the rights are in the public domain now. It's been so long.
I
Maybe
guess
that's one of the
it was a
reasons.
Victorian era play, wasn't it? Yeah.
Yeah, I struggle. I said to Em, I was like, "Oh, the new Peter Pan's out, the live action one. Like, do you want to watch it?" She was like, "Yeah, sure." And I was like, "It's not because I want to watch it. I was just intrigued because you prefer these live action, or like not prefer them, but you have more
Oh,
reverence for the Disney films than I do." And she was like, "No, I don't
yeah.
really care about this
Let's
one."
not overstep the boundaries there. I don't have much reference for any of the remakes. Just maybe one or two. I
No, no, I
especially
meant
like, but yeah.
no, I meant M more than you.
Oh
Like,
yeah, sure.
but like, we'll probably go see Little Mermaid because M's a big fan of the animated film. That's her favorite Disney film.
That's not a
Um,
bad choice. That's good taste.
and yeah, I guess my favorite one was Lion King, and the live action was fine for that. I just feel like, I just feel like there's just so uninspired
They're unish.
remakes.
It's like early days, people were calling them out, saying like, "This is just cash grab," and they're just unashamedly just agreeing to that now. Yeah, it is. We're just making every single one that we've ever made again.
Yeah, it's
Uh,
like they've run out of ideas. It's such a shame.
but
But
they
I
haven't,
guess the
though, have
idea,
they? I
I
mean,
guess
there's still
the
Pixar movies being made. Disney Animation Studios are doing a pretty decent job. I mean, Encanto was a big hit. They got
Yeah, but
a couple lined
they're
up.
dumping these films on Disney Plus. Like,
Mm,
uh, the last Pixar film to come out in the cinemas was Lightyear, and I don't think it did particularly well.
no, no, or no, or Strange
All the
World.
other ones
Yeah,
which were actually good, they dumped on Disney Plus. Um,
Turning Red was incredible, but
yeah, as was
yeah,
Soul. Absolutely loved
yeah.
Soul. Um, yeah, I don't know. I don't know. I just feel like it's a way for them to be like, hey, we've got this. You remember Peter Pan? We got this new one. Then you watch it and you go, it reminds me of the original, but it's not as good. And then you go and put on the original because, and you know, it's just a wheel. It's just a wheel.
Well, that's the thing. I think it's a diminished return, isn't it? If you're going to do the same thing in live action form, then it's already lost
Yeah,
because the things that you can achieve with, like, say, like a cartoonized version of the Lion King, as opposed to inverted commas live action when it's not, it's animated, but it's the impression of live action is you can achieve so much more emotion and varying degrees of movement and and the word animation with an animated feature film. Like, you just can't, and there's a sense of separation between real and what's not whenever you watch a cartoon, as opposed to watching something that's real. And if you're doing the same things, you're just getting less of an impact. It just feels more phony.
yeah.
At least do something like Laurie's doing and try to take something that is really well ingrained in people's minds and try to, like, do something interesting with it. Try to flip it on its head a little bit,
Which
introduce some new things.
I guess is kind of what they try to do with Maleficent. Is
Mm,
kind of tell that story
just
from a
appreciate
different
the effort.
perspective. Yeah, like that. But recently, it seems to have just been we're just redoing the story beat for beat, just so
Mm,
like people on YouTube can put the two side by side and be like, "Whoa, look, they've completely
hmm
recreated it." But it's just like they're kind of vibe for these films where like the animal creatures, the fantastical creatures, have to look like they're real life things. It just they look creepy. Like Little Mermaid, the crab and the fish look like a real crab and a fish, and it's creepy. I can't help it. It doesn't look as interesting. I don't
Yeah,
know.
yeah.
But I will be.
We got Jacob Tremblay as a fish.
I know.
So,
I guess we'll be talking about Little Mermaid in a month or so,
I'm sure we
whenever it
will.
drops. But yeah, I don't know, and I don't want to subscribe to that film being bad before I go in. But I don't have much. I don't have high hopes. Surely they're coming to the end of these live remakes now. Like I know they've got Snow White planned.
Yeah,
They've
with
got
Rachel
Rachel,
Ziegler,
yeah,
Gal Gadot.
and she's good. So not Gal Gadot so much, but Rachel Zegler's
Yeah.
good. So that'll be interesting. But then is that it? Are we done? Can we do Treasure Planet? I'd be happy with
Oh
Treasure Planet. That would
man,
be cool. Make a full blown sci-fi. I'd be happy with that.
I think like the thing that happened to Lilo and Stitch, where
Oh
that was like
God,
a
no, they are, aren't they?
they are the yes, the guy who directed Marcel Shell's Shoes On is directing that.
Have you
Um,
seen the kind of I mean the
you
controversies
wonder
over the
how that's going to
casting?
look as a movie, don't you?
Yeah.
I
Have
mean,
you
I
seen the
love
contra?
Lilo and Stitch. It's one of my favorite Disney films. but I don't know if it translates to. And kind of the charm of that is the early 2000s vibe that movie has, and the watercolor animation, and just looks so pretty, and it's of its
Oh, it's
time.
so good. It's so
Um,
good.
Treasure Planet as well. I mean, I think the same thing that happened to Lilo and Stitch is happening with Treasure Planet, where people are rediscovering it and
Mm.
realizing that it's a great movie.
Oh yeah, I love
For
Lilo and Stitch. I haven't watched it in so long. Not happy they're making a remake. I would be cool with them doing Treasure Island because I feel like that film didn't. Not a lot of people did see it.
Mhm.
It's kind of more of a, if you saw it, you loved it, and
Yeah.
it's there. What are they going to do after that? You going to do Emperor's New Groove? That doesn't work,
Oh,
does
Emperor.
it?
Oh, I forgot
Um,
about Emperor's New Groove. One of the funniest kids movies ever. I love that
oh
movie.
yeah, absolutely brilliant. But like, are you going to have a realistic
Yeah.
looking llama? No,
No, and then yeah, no. Again, like it's that
but they'll
movie's
do it.
funny because of the slapstick, and you can't do the slapstick without all the zany animation.
Ugh.
Yeah.
Sick of Disney and these live action remakes.
Give me Treasure Planet with Timothy Chalamet as Jim Hawkins. I'm there.
Yeah, I could see that, but it's going to be Tom Holland.
Yeah. With dressed as Nathan Drake.
Oh god. Who would
Uh,
play your main pirate? What's his name?
oh, Long John Silver.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, you can go like an Italian actor, like you can do like a De Niro type or something like that, or Brendan Gleeson.
I
That'll
was
be good.
about to say Brendan Gleeson. I'd go for Brendan Gleeson. He's
Yeah.
kind of done the look before with Mad Eye Moody, isn't he?
Yeah, yeah. I guess he had the stump leg and everything. And he kind of had the peg leg kind of going on, but it'll end up being Tom Holland and Dwayne Johnson.
Oh god, it will be. It will be. You're so right. You're so right.
They'll just put some dreadlocks on Dwayne Johnson.
Oh god. Oh no, that was it. We haven't discussed this. We haven't discussed this, and this was revealed not too long ago. They're doing a live action Moana.
Oh
Why?
yeah, I saw the promo video on YouTube where he was on the beach with his kids in Maui or somewhere in Hawaii. Um, and yeah, it was a weird thing. I mean, the movie came out
Why?
in 2016, 17. Yeah, I mean,
Yeah, make Moana 2. I'd much rather see Moana 2 than live action Moana.
yeah, the whole point of that, the joy of that movie is how beautiful the animation is and how like
Yeah.
the blue crystal clear water and the gorgeous like sunrise and yeah, I love that movie. It's gorgeous to look at. But yeah, I mean, do I really want to see Dwayne Johnson actually dressed up as Maui? I mean, what is that? Again, I'm fascinated just to see what it looks like.
Yeah, I can't picture it personally. I just can't picture it. It's gonna, and if I put some expectations on it, it's always gonna be lower. So
Hmm.
we got a real chicken and a real pig.
Yeah, is that chicken really gonna like headbutt itself on things? No, they're gonna animate it. They're gonna CGI it.
Oh yeah, of course, but like it's gonna look like a real chicken.
Yeah, and it's just
That's the
gonna be
problem.
a micro pig.
Oh, I
Uh,
don't know about any of this. But I'm not the audience, I guess. I'm not a big um I love Marvel and Star Wars, but like I'm there for Marvel and Star Wars not because it's Disney. Like I was
mm.
never a big Disney fanatic. I enjoyed watching Disney films, but I wasn't like,
Yeah, we're sort of different in that way, but I think that's kind of how you grow. When you grow up in a house full of sisters, there's
oh yeah, yeah.
your whole DVD cabinet is Disney films. Um, so whether I liked it or not, I was watching them, but I did like it.
Yeah, yeah, and we all know you're a Disney adult.
I am a Disney adult, yeah. But I'm not delusional. I know what's good I know what I feel is good and what's not whenever I see it.
I know, I'm only kidding. No, people gotta love what they gotta love. I mean, I've got bloody Star Wars tattooed on me, so I can't exactly talk.
It's in your yeah, the Millennium Falcon is literally in your skin.
Exactly. So,
Well, yeah, I recommend everybody to at least go into Peter Pan and Wendy with an open attitude.
no,
Really good, really interesting late night movie. Like I said, it feels like a bedtime story. It's got this kind of sleepy, but not in a bad way. Kind of toned it. It's interesting. It is interesting, and yeah, I came out of it pretty solid. And I just wish they gave him a little bit more money. I think he could have made a bit of a classic on his hands. But that's really it. I just recommend people to see it.
Nope. Nope.
No, Alex is not sold at all.
I'm only kidding. I might. We'll see. No
Usually my
promises.
recommendations are about, they used to be kind of successful. You now they got a bit of 50-50 hit rate. So you can kind of take it. You can take it
I
as it is.
Yeah. I mean, it's not a strong recommendation from you, Chris. It's just a
I came out more positive than I thought I was going to be.
okay. Best
But you will
Disney
forget
remake
it
ever?
quickly.
No,
Best Disney remake ever for me still is actually probably one of their first ones. I think an unsung hero is Kenneth Branagh's Cinderella. I think he did a really, really good job with that. With that was kind of a breakout role for Lily James. Um, yeah, that movie kind of is really good. I think that's a really nice. It does something with a movie that is kind of basic. Like I mean, the 1950s animated film is quite a simple story. It kind of takes it. Has a really awesome villain performance from Kate Blanchett as the evil lady Tremaine. She is absolutely chewing scenery. It's kind of similar to what she was like in Thor Ragnarok. Um, in
and
terms of
Tar.
the just the thespian like evil theatricality of it all, and she's brilliant. And it's shot interestingly. I think it's the best looking Kenneth Branagh movie. Yeah, I mean I think it's pretty good.
Lydia Tarr plays the evil stepmother.
Yeah, and wearing some of the best costumes ever as well.
Do you know what? I never saw that one, so I would maybe prefer to see that one first.
Yeah, it's
Maybe.
good. Helena
Yeah.
Bonham Carter is the godmother, you know.
I did this whole episode's just a bloody live action Disney remake
Yeah.
discourse. Who knows? But I did actually enjoy Beauty and the Beast. I thought Beauty and the Beast was
Oh,
okay.
and I disagree.
And everybody else hates that one. I was like, oh, that's all right. It's
Oh
a
no,
nice
you're not
musical.
wrong. No, you're wrong. Everybody loves that one. I think. I feel like most people like that one.
I probably, if I watched it again, maybe it just caught me in a nice mood where I was like, oh,
Hmm.
this is nice.
But when you just again, it's you're comparing, aren't you?
That's
No
the
one is a
thing
straight up.
with some of these. I'm not comparing because it's been so long since
Hmm.
like when I saw Beauty and the Beast. It had been so long. I remember the basic story of Beauty and the Beast, but I don't remember specific elements from the animated film. That when I went into the cinema, I was like, "Yeah, this is all right."
Yeah, yeah, and I appreciated it a lot into a degree, even though I'm not a Guy Ritchie fan. Some things in that movie that kind of turned me off. I think the Will Smith thing I quite enjoy actually. If they had let
Mm,
him go full like rap with the friend like me song and not just try to half, there was a kind of a nervousness to that. Like, oh, we'll kind of like honor the original song, but like let him sort of do a bit of the rap thing. I think if they just let him do his own thing, that would have been really fun. Plus, we also get Hot Jafar from the live action version of that movie. The infamous Hot Jafar. But yeah, they're really up and down. But I feel like apart from the odd interesting project, they're really on a downhill spiral now. Ever since they've made these straight to Disney Plus, there's just like not really any sort of desire to make them good. They just want to get them
yeah.
out. They
Can
just
we all
want.
can we all agree Pinocchio was the
Oh
worst?
my
It
goodness.
was the most painful
Yeah,
experience of
I
watching one of
mean,
these.
hearing a Chris Pine joke in Pinocchio was probably like the lowest point of my year last time.
That was painful. It almost made me not watch Guillermo del Toro's version, which I'm
And that
so
would have
glad
been a
I
big
did in the
mistake.
end.
Yeah.
That would have been the biggest mistake, but it almost turned me off of that. Um, but yeah, did you watch Lady and the Tramp? Sorry to keep going on about Disney, man, but
No,
did you watch the?
that was like one of their launch titles for Disney Plus, wasn't it? As
Yeah,
like it was just kind of farted onto Disney Plus and
yeah,
with no like sort of build up or trailers. And I think that's one people said it's fine.
yeah. From what I remember, I saw it, and again, I've forgotten most of it, but from what I remember, it was fine. It was fine.
Yeah. Yeah. It's not the one that's like they've got real dogs and they don't animate their mouths, they just talk without moving their mouths. Is it like that?
I can't remember,
I
but
know
I
you do
do
love a good
think
talking dog movie. That's like
yeah, I think that's probably why I watched it. Uh, I think Lady looks like your dog though.
yeah, she kind of looks like Willow.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So there you go.
yeah. That's a reason to watch it. I'll show her it sometime when I'm babysitting.
Well, yeah. Well, my dog gets represented in every other dog
Ah,
film,
yeah,
so we're all good. So you should watch it just for the King Charles Spaniel representation.
yeah. That's true. Actually, I mean, that's the thing about having a gold retriever. It's like it is literally the golden boy, isn't he?
Well, yeah, yeah. They are that's probably why I wanted one, was because I saw so many films with golden
Because
retrievers. They're like the OG classical dog.
I'm
Yeah.
seeing that on your letterbox account, your favorite movie is Marley and Me and Snow Buddies.
That is not true. That is
That
not
is,
true.
well, find out for
Pretty sure
yourselves.
Marley and Me isn't a retriever though. I'm pretty sure it's a Labrador, is it not?
Oh, you might be right.
Yeah, so
Yeah, sorry.
it's different.
It's different. They both have the same color hair. That's all I know.
Well, should we move on from the Disney discourse, which I'm actually took up a lot more time than I thought. I was surprised. It got me on a rant which I wasn't aware that I was gonna have.
It's been
Uh,
festering in you for
yeah,
years
just got really annoyed by yet another fine live action Disney remake
that you haven't seen yet.
that I haven't even seen. Oh man, I hope Little Mermaid's all right, but it's not promising. Anyway,
I'm
let's
IMAX 3D.
we've had a bit of a break. We've had a bit of a break from the BFI films, mainly because we came what was the last one we saw? Was it Matter of Life and Death, or was it the Charlie Chaplin
It
Modern
was
Times?
Modern Times, yeah.
Modern Times, that was it. We'd watched Modern Times, and then we both had like holidays and all kinds of stuff going on. Um, and we all knew that the next film that we're coming back to was like a 3 hour long French
Yeah.
film. So I think it kind of maybe stalled us a little bit. But we're back. We're back in it. And yeah, we both watched Celine and Julie go boating.
What did you think, Alex?
Well,
Was
should
it
we?
worth was it worth the wait? Was the build up and anticipation gnawing
Oh
at you before
man.
you went to sit down and watch this?
Oh, I'm just gonna sound like such a negative person on this podcast. Uh, I don't want to be that person, but here I am. This was my least favorite film out of the all the ones we've seen so far.
Ooh, ouch.
Yeah. Um and it's not like bad. It just didn't work for me. It does surprise me that it's one on the list and two higher than I would put it on the list. But a lot of people love it. And obviously what they loved about it clearly didn't connect with me. Celine and Julie Go Boating, we should probably mention, is a 1974 film
Hmm.
about like a pair of young women, and it says on Letterbox, who find their daily lives preempted by a strange boudoir melodrama that plays itself out in a hallucinatory parallel reality. But really, I would say that's the final third of the film.
Yeah, the first half of the movie is something it warms you up into getting into that mode, I'd say.
It's a bit of a slapsticky, um, trippy at
Friend hangout
times.
movie in a way.
Yeah, it is definitely like a buddy movie, isn't it? Like
Hmm.
your two women, Celine and Julie, um, they they are kind of like strangely linked together, always kind of playing games. You're never really sure what's real and what's not real.
Yeah.
They pretend to be each other at different
Yeah.
times, and
Yeah.
all this kind of like weird stuff going on. And then obviously by the end, there's this strange melodrama that plays out within the film, that is only kind of witnessed by them when they suck on sweets.
Yes.
Have I
Weird when you put it like that.
Yeah, have I described the plot of the film well, Chris? Considering I'd struggled.
So much emphasis on suck on sweets.
Sucking on
It
sweets.
all comes down to 3 hours and 20 minutes of sucking on sweets.
And don't get me wrong, I love a bit of weirdness. Like, we're both fans of like David Lynch, and
Oh
And
yes, and it's worth saying I think he's made note that this film was an inspiration for him.
I can see that. It's a starting point for being like, hey, you can do weird stuff in cinema. Um, but yeah, Lynch does it a lot better, I would say.
It's directed by Jacques Rivette, who was sort of like an unsung hero of the French New Wave, where everybody was sort of focusing on Godard, who we talked about a few episodes ago. But he kind of has been recognized in the last sort of 15 years, also being quite pioneering in the genre too. Um,
Yeah, I've watched one of his other films. I've actually watched The Nun from 1966, which had Anna Karenina in it.
yes.
Um, which was fine, but it wasn't. I don't think it, from what I can remember, it wasn't as experimental as this
Mhm.
film was. Not
I
even
think I
anywhere
think
near. I think it was very much a straightforward drama.
I think this is his most revered movie. Um,
Yes.
and I think he had a lot of long ones too. I think he had like a 9 hour movie somewhere in there too.
Oh god.
Yeah, he didn't like to cut a lot of stuff either. What I will say I really appreciated. I was really brought in from the very first opening scene of this movie, where we have Julie on a park bench and she's reading a book of magic spells, something like that, and you're just kind of enjoying the sight and sound of Paris during a beautiful summer's day. It's kind of really shot in this naturalistic way where you can kind of feel the environment. It's almost like being on a holiday in a way. And then we in comes disrupting her life in a way. Is Celine? Who's kind of disheveled and she's wearing all these sort of weird costume items as she's kind of trying to rush through the park, and she drops a few items on the way, and Julie starts picking them up and she falls. It's what turns into quite a humorous cat and mouse chase around the city of Paris, which is probably some of the most beautiful stuff in this movie. Is you get this sort of really
Yeah.
guerrilla filmmaking of Paris, where there's loads of people in the backgrounds in these busy Paris streets, which are obviously real people and aren't paid actors. You can these were the days where these French filmmakers were just running through the streets of France and just kind of carrying their camera with them and quickly getting shots and running to the next location, and that feels quite exciting when you're watching it.
Mhm.
And there's some
I
brilliant.
very much enjoyed the opening. I very
Mm,
much enjoyed it.
yeah, it's beautiful to look at. It's almost a bit of a tease in a way, because although the movie um, is beautiful in its own way, and the Criterion version that I saw, the restoration was beautiful, but it's not like the most gorgeous looking movie in its interiors. It's very naturalistic, and the camera doesn't move a lot. Um, but there's a lot of interesting things going on here thematically. I think the whole thing at the start with Celine is very, very much an obvious nod to the whole White Rabbit scenario in Alice in Wonderland. It's very much like you're going down the rabbit hole, and we see Julie at the start, what appears to be almost like she's nodding off on the bench, and that's when she sees Celine. And then the movie starts. So then already you're kind of in the back of your mind thinking, is this a real scenario, or is she daydreaming here? And the
Mm.
whole movie feels like a daydream. It has that surrealism where everything's very familiar. Everybody functions in a way that you'd expect, but then the Pandora's box starts to open, and things go not as you expect them to go.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, what
And
what
that's
did
where,
you?
and unfortunately that is kind of where it loses me, is where it starts going down random routes that don't always feel like they connect to anything. And I just felt like it kind of
Maybe that's
meandered
the
around
point.
with randomness. There's also an element of repetitiveness. That's not a word.
Repetition.
Repetitiveness.
Yes,
Repetition. Thank you, Chris.
that's okay. Helping you out.
Repetition. Um, yeah, and I was really starting to get tired with it. I wonder if it had been shorter, maybe I would have been a fan. And I hate saying that, but yeah, I think if this had been like a lean 90 minutes slapstick comedy about two friends getting up
Mm,
to no good, then yeah, I would have been all for that. But yeah, it just kind of just
mm,
lost me, and I was very tired by the end of this film.
Yeah, I think he's trying to really warm you up into the characters and really make you fall in love with them, which is semi-successful. I do find these two quite compelling when they're together. It's worth saying that both of these actresses, they were actually very close friends in real life, and that part of the reason why Rivette cast them together. So
Yeah,
they already,
you
and
can see that they have chemistry.
yes, there's a sisterly sort of bond to the two of them. Um, but yeah, no, I find it interesting in that regard. When it descends into another movie in the second half where um, there's this house that they are both sort of attracted to. One of them, I think it's Julie, has a memory of she was a nanny or a nurse there when she was younger, um, and it's this sort of story that they both get entangled to whenever they visit the house. The house
Mm,
almost sort of like in a not in a physical way, but sort of metaphorically consumes them for a while, and then they both get wrapped up in this Victorian setting drama where there is two women who are vying for the attention of a widowed man, and the only thing that's keeping the widowed man from marrying any of them is the fact that he has a young daughter. He's very very sick, and he has to focus on her, and they're both fighting um, to they're both scheming individually to kill the daughter to win the man's affection. And Celine and Julie get kind of wrapped up in this story and try to solve it and save the girl. And that's kind of what's going on here. Um, so you're trying to probably piece together the whole time what is Jacques Rivette trying to tell us with this story. Why is this movie that's became a very like Parisian bohemian look at life to a story about you know like a soap opera?
what did it all mean?
I, to be honest, I kind of struggled with it a little bit when I read up online. Some really interesting essays on this film.
I can imagine. I can imagine. Yeah.
There are some good points. I mean, a lot of people have made the point that Jacques Rivette is kind of almost trying to turn the people in the house are almost like dolls. And with film before French New Wave, everybody was sort of static and everybody was being controlled and puppeted by the filmmaker. And it was sort of his kind of chance to let the puppets be free and be in charge of their own story and rewrite um, the plot in a way and try to fix things and change the past. And that's kind of like why the last shot in the film they're all sort of statuesque. This is beautiful. They finally do go boating actually in the movie.
Yes.
I almost thought that wasn't going to happen.
Yes.
They go boating in the very last scene of the movie, which is a very haunting and beautiful shot of the cast of characters that are in the house. They are going across this ghostly sort of river on a boat, and they're all statuesque and they're staring at Celine and Julie. And you can kind of try to work out what that means also. Um, yeah, that stuff kind of was a little bit more of a struggle. Not only just trying to kind of keep up with it, but also just kind of trying to work out what it all means.
Mm.
I had ideas, weren't quite like that, but it's definitely interesting anyway. I like the first half of the movie a lot more.
Yes. Yeah. I agree. I agree. There was
I,
more to like at the start than there was by
yeah,
the end.
I I must say my favorite scene, probably the one that made me really really laugh, was the scene where Celine swaps places with Julie and she dons her dress and she answers her phone call while Julie is out of the house and pretends to be she pretends to be Julie in front of her ex boyfriend or childhood lover,
Yeah. I think it
and
was
then
childhood, wasn't it? Yeah.
childhood friend, and she dresses up like her and puts on a wig and goes and meets him in a public setting in the park, and they're both really overly dressed up, and they start like doing this dance together and sing. They break into almost like a musical number, but it's in the middle of the real like Parisian public, and there's these children just like unscripted children watching, obviously in real life, thinking, "What the heck are these people doing?" and being really, really fascinated by it. While these two actors are just throwing themselves into this kind of absurdist sort of plot line. I find that really, really funny. The interaction between them is really, really interesting. Where he's just like he just shouts at her randomly, "Finish me off," and then and then she's like, "No, you're a pervert" or something like that, and then he just calls her like a slut, walks away. Yeah, it's some really like weird, interesting moments there that kind of subvert your expectations. But I think the whole point of this movie is that there's no point. I really came to the conclusion of it
Yeah.
that you're kind of just kind of getting enveloped with two people who are kind of fun to be around, and your mileage may vary.
Yeah, yeah, I agree. I agree. It would be good to sit down with somebody who like truly loves this film, for them to really explain to me why they love it. And
Yeah, there's
maybe
definitely
get
a
a
good
better
case for it.
understanding. Obviously, I know you didn't hate it, and you look at it more fondly than I do. But I want the people who gave it 5 stars, the people who put it on this list. Why? Why?
Mm.
But yeah, there you go. This is
It is something interesting about it, though. There is something that is like recurring on me. I keep thinking of individual moments, days after seeing the movie, and there is something. There is a certain spell that the movie has, and I can get why people maybe might identify with it. And I'd be interested also to see what people make of it. I didn't dislike it at all.
if anybody wants to let us know, let us know. Maybe
Let
I'll
us
put
know.
a question in at the little Spotify questions you can do. Scroll down if you're on Spotify, and you can see that there's a question after every episode. Maybe I'll put in, if you loved Celine and Julie Go Boating, please tell me why.
Mm.
In a nice way, because I am interested.
And it's hard to guarantee to everybody if when our next BFI episode is going to come out.
Yeah,
Really,
yeah, we talk about
not out
it.
of
I
lack
feel
of
like we've
trying.
been dreading this for weeks. Maybe dread isn't the word, but we've been
No,
kind of
not
like
dread at
hyping
all.
ourselves up. We mention it every week. But yeah, the next one is Santantango. That might be how it's pronounced. That's the 7 hour one. I have 2 days off next week. And I'm going to try watch it over those 2 days. That's my plan.
Dedication.
So potentially, I don't know if you're going to get right to it this weekend, Chris. I might be ready to talk about it next week, but you probably won't. So we'll wait until we're both ready.
Mm.
Um, but I'm going to try get it done during the week. So we're going to see how it goes.
Okay. Well, I will try my best to match you. Can't guarantee it yet, but I'm really looking forward to it too. So the next opportunity I get, I am sticking on Santantango because there's so many great more movies I want to catch up with this list, Santantango included. And it's one of those sort of like Celine and Julie Go Boating. They're both similar in the way that they're like white whale movies.
Mm,
Like they're like these very elusive things that everybody's sort of aware about, but nobody ever gets around to seeing.
yeah.
And I don't want I want to be against that category. I want to be able to say I sing that and have a real more of an opinion maybe than I had on Celine and Joey. Good with
Yeah, we'll see. I'm more excited for this one, surprisingly, than I
it.
was going into Celine and Julie. Don't know why. Just the clips I've seen, I'm like, oh, interesting.
Okay. Okay.
Apparently, very difficult to watch in the UK theatrically, because there was actually a screening of it in Dublin after we left.
Really?
Yeah, they did it in one of the was it Dublin or Belfast? I can't remember, but yeah, I saw one of them tweet about it or something. But yeah, they were doing a full blown 7 hours, and I think there was one or two 15-minute intermissions in there.
I
So
can see that. I remember when I was a kid, they were doing intermissions still in like blockbuster
yeah,
movies. Did you
bring
ever
that
remember
back.
that?
Bring
I
that
remember
back.
when I
Bring.
saw the Hulk back in 2003, I think it was. I remember there was an intermission halfway through that movie,
Yeah,
and
Lord of the
I
Rings.
remember that. Yeah.
Every Lord of the Rings had an intermission. I remember Pirates of the Caribbean had an intermission. All these films had an intermission. Don't know why they lost that. Maybe it kind of ruins the flow of some of these films. I can see that.
Mm.
Um, but yeah, oh, I was going to say difficult to watch in the UK because of our animal cruelty laws. There's a scene of animal cruelty in it, and although the filmmakers have said that it was not real, apparently there's no real evidence to say that it wasn't. So it's very difficult to
Mm.
watch theatrically in the UK. Not a lot of cinemas are allowed to screen it. I don't think.
That's the thing that I struggle with. Like, I love film, but why do we always? Why is so many films resort to not depictions of animal cruelty? I love horror. Horror is one of my favorite genres, but like, do we really have to kill the dog every time? I mean, just spare me, please. You can't
We'll,
even escape from it from Marvel now. Even Guardians has got
yeah, but you were
it.
waxing lyrical about that last week, Chris. So when
Oh
done
yeah.
right, when done
Oh,
right.
I know. I just don't know if I put it on. I just don't know if I want to see Baby Rocket Raccoon when I'm going to sleep in bed at night. Maybe I won't be the Guardians movie. I put it on for that purpose.
Fair enough. Fair enough.
But I think that about does it for today. Yeah, really interesting mixture of films to talk about. I always like to kind of mix it up as much as possible. We always kind of try to plan for movies that are sort of separate from each other and just kind of keep the episodes quite lively and mixed bag sort of things for everybody to enjoy. But that is us for now for the film angle, episode number 55.
I'm sorry for being so negative about pretty much all the
Okay.
films today,
We
even
should
ones I
swap
hadn't
roles
seen.
next. We'll swap roles next week. I'm sure. I'm sure. But yes, of course, guys, just catch up with us on Instagram. I think Alex, you are currently posting a TikTok video, so we got some more stuff coming up on there. No, you have to make it because I've said it.
I posted one today. I think we're all good. It was like one of those photo ones.
You can listen to us, of course, on Spotify, on Apple Podcasts, wherever you guys get your podcasts from. But for now, I've been Chris.
And I'm Alex.
See you later. Have a good one.
Goodbye.